So I'm going to compare two versions of the iconic rock and roll guitar, the Gibson Les Paul. The reason I thought it'd be interesting is that I actually am fortunate enough to have really two generations of the Les Paul. The one on the left is a 1981 XR-1, which was the precursor to the studio version, or maybe the closest comparison would be to the studio version. The one on right is really their flagship, the Les Paul Standard 2016 model. So it's not really apples to apples because they're not the same model, if you will, but it's still an interesting comparison, I think. The difference in the models, the one on the left, the XR1, was really meant to be a no-frills version, just the basic meat and bones potato of the Les Paul. Where the one on the right is meant to be a little fancier. It's got a little bit more of the fanciness, like the trapezoid inlays, and it's got the mother of pearl inlay logo, the Gibson logo, and then of course it's got a real nice finish on it, and the binding. So if you get up really close, first I'll show you the headstock. So you see on the 2016, that's what I mean by the mother of pearl inlay. This is a true mother of pearl. And you can tell it's an inlay because you can feel it with your finger. It's got a little bit narrower headstock. So I don't know if they trimmed it down so they could use a smaller neck, get a smaller piece of wood. This is definitely narrower than the 1981. If you look at the 1981, well, first of all, it's got like a silk screen logo, but you can see how wide it is at the points versus this one. And it's really evident in the curvature here, the width of the points and the width of the bottom here, and then the curvature. So if you look at those, it's really subtle to somebody who's not really paying a lot of attention to them, but it's pretty, once I point it out, you can see it's pretty significant. It's interesting, the difference in them. But it's got this is their patent, if you will, their signature. You can tell a Les Paul or a Gibson model right from just the profile. Then we're moving down this is, I think, what they call tectoid nut or something like that. Some kind of bone or nut composite, some kind of crazy material. And then the 1981 is just the regular plastic. I'm pretty sure it's plastic. But honestly, I mean, they both work fine, so I don't know what the big deal is, but a lot of people are really hung up on one versus the other. And then on the neck, of course, we have the trapezoid inlays here versus just the dots on the 1981 model. But let's spend some time on the neck here. So one of the interesting things, is the binding. It's nice and stylish, and the binding really serves the purpose to protect the wood of the guitar. So even as you move down, go around the body, it's meant to prevent, if you knock the guitar against something that's meant to protect the finish in the wood. So it's plastic, usually. And in this case, the frets kind of stop at the binding. But what's interesting about that is, if you do a lot of tremolo, you're actually going to come off the frets a little bit if you go really crazy with the tremolo. I don't really have a problem with it, so it's not a big deal to me, but I just noticed that it's really pretty noticeable. If you come over to the XR1, the frets go all the way to the end, really, and you don't get any kind of, you don't have to worry about, if you fall off, you're actually falling off the whole fretboard. So you get a little bit more flexibility with the vibrato if you're really crazy with vibrato. So, but honestly, I never really I just notice it when I'm comparing them. And really, when I notice is when I'm stringing the guitar, because one of the things I do is I stretch the strings out really good when I'm stringing the guitar, and that's how I notice it, because it kind of falls off a lot quicker. But I don't notice it when I'm playing it, so I don't want to knock the guitar for that. Okay, then moving down, the pickups in the 2016 are the Burst Bucker Pro pickups, and they are pretty hot. They're pretty high output, really nice pickups. The XR1 has the Gibson Dirty Fingers humbuckers, and of course they don't have the chrome cover on them. I put those on. I think I put all the chrome pieces. As a matter of fact, the pick guard, I don't even think was cream originally. I think everything on the guitar, the trim was black on the XR-1. I replaced it. Geez, I did it almost 20 years ago, so who knows? It was probably something was broken or something. Looks like I need to adjust it. It's moved over a little bit. Anyway, there's no pick guard on this, and I wouldn't want one on. And I mean, I like to see the nice finish. It's got a nice finish on it, the flame maple top, you know, and they leave that off just so you can see the finish. I mean, why have the nice finish if you can't see it? One of the things that's neat about the flame top is how it changes when you move the light source around, or move your, in this case, the camera around. You can see you get a different flame, and that's kind of what's the attraction to the flame maple top, is how it changes with the light, etc. So this is the desert burst, and this is the tobacco burst, and it's just more of a flat finish. Nothing fancy, right? But you can see this guitar could have used the binding, because you can see the chips on the edges. I'm getting banged around, but that's what happens when you're 35 years old or so. And the bridge and tailpiece, pretty straightforward and standard, with the exception that they added like a set screw to each of these so they don't fall off now when you take the strings off. Normally on a Les Paul, when you take the strings off, they're just held on with it slides up against the post, the tailpiece does, and then this just sits down on the posts. So when you take the strings off, there's nothing holding these pieces off, so they always just fall right off. And you know, you don't want them to fall off and nick a nice finish. But I mean, of all the places I have nicks, I don't have them around where those are, so I don't think it's that big a deal. Nothing that's really resulted from that falling. Anyway, one more thing for them to selling point, I guess. But one of the biggest things is the potentiometers, the pots for the. So this is the volume and the tone for the neck pickup, and then the volume and tone for the bridge pickup. And so you turn the volume up and down, you get a tone, of course. But with these, what's special about them is that they're all push-pull, so they all give the some added tonality to the guitar, depending on whether or not it's pushed in or out. So when you have them pushed in, it's just the standard wiring. When you pull out the volumes, then they go to single coil. And what they do is they will take, these are just like, it's easier to see maybe on the, but these are two spindles with the wires wrapped around them, so there are two coils, and that's what makes them the humbuckers. Having the two coils, that they cancel the hum that you normally get with a single coil. So when you, so there's no covers on here. So if you look under the cover, you'd see the same sort of thing. You'd see the two spindles. So what these do, when you pull them out, it goes to single coil. It pulls just the windings off of one of the coils rather than both of the coils. So they call that coil tapping, I guess, is what that's called. So it gives a little bit of a thinner sound, I think, more like a Strat or something like that. So if you're into that, you like that. What I really like is the this one. If you pull it out, it changes the phase. So normally when you have to have the switch in the combined position. So this position does both pickups, of course. So when you have the phase switch out, then these are out of phase. So it kind of gives you a swirly sound, because some of the frequencies get canceled and some of them get doubled, if you will, or they get added together. So the phase reversal gives it a little bit of a swirly, weird sound that I think you hear it in Jimmy Page and Peter Green a lot. But I like it. I think it's a cool sound. And then this one, what it does is no matter what settings you have in here, if you pull this one out, it goes right the full output of the bridge pickup right to the jack. So you can have all kinds of weird settings up here and have all the pots pulled out and the volumes down, and then you can pull it out and get to your lead tone right away. Okay, so that's kind of cool. I like that. So I'll demo that with "Bring It On Home" by Led Zeppelin, where he goes from a really low bluesy guitar on the porch sound to this full lead blown out tone. And you can do that really easy with pulling that out. It's kind of cool. Anyway, so the XR-1 also had a weird control switch in it. And if you look at it, so this switch here, and so when you go to literature, it says it's like a coil tap, or same thing, it would pull one lead off of one of the pickups. But that's not what this one does. This one's more like the David Gilmour. You flip it up and it seems to activate this pickup and makes that pickup active. So it gives it a little bit of a throatier, deeper sound, but it's more than just adding that pickup. It does something else to it, but I don't know what it does, but it's more like just adding in this pickup and then changing the output somehow. But it's okay, but I almost always play with it in that position, the standard Les Paul position. Okay. So you might be asking yourself, you got this Les Paul, why buy the other one? Well, to the Les Paul connoisseurs, it's an obvious question. They think, hey, you got to have a Les Paul standard. But I was more, I bought the XR-1, at a pawn shop in the early '90s, and I didn't pay very much for it. It was kind of nice. It was certainly less than $1,000. I don't even remember what I paid. I think $700, maybe $600 back then. Who knows? But I always wondered, geez, how does it really compare to the standard, the flagship? So I've always wanted a standard, the real Les Paul, if you will. So I always wondered, geez, is this, this sound as good as a regular Les Paul? So I always wanted one anyway. But there's been a lot of talk about the Les Pauls lately and the quality and what they've been doing with some of the strange innovations and things like that. So I thought, I could have been holding off because I just haven't been. I didn't like the E-tune stuff. I'm not worried about tuning as much. Maybe I should. When you hear my playing, you'd be like, you tune his guitar once in a while, you might sound okay. But I like the classic Les Paul look. This has the classic Les Paul look. The only thing I'll probably change out is the tuners. I'll probably go over to the standard Gibson Deluxe tuners because I don't really need, these are locking tuners, and a lot of people are pointing that out as an advantage. It's got the little wheel on the back where once you get the string to pitch, you tighten that down and it locks the string in place. The only thing I don't like about it is it presses down on the string and actually, it kind of crimps the string, and I worry about it making them more prone to breaking. And as a matter of fact, when I took the strings off when I first bought this, they were kind of broken underneath, and came off really easily, and I didn't like that at all. And so I'll probably go to the Gibson Deluxe. The way I string them, I really don't have any more problem with the Les Paul than I do any other guitar. But I really don't have a problem with guitars going out of tune that much. They all go out of tune a little bit. You always have to touch them up. But I went online and found a method. If you look up Joe Walsh guitar tuning or guitar strings, you get his Guitar Tech, and it shows you this interesting method for locking the strings down, which is what I've been using for years and years and years, and I think it works great. So anyway, you still, when strings are new, you got to play around with them. So one of the things I did for the comparison is they restrung both these guitars, so they are brand new strings on them. So I'm still playing around, keeping them in tune. So I'm sure they'll go out of tune when I play them, but that's all right. The other thing about the major difference between them is the Les Paul standard 2016 has the modern weight relief. So they've cut holes out here. They've cut a series of holes, and they cut strips and lines through them, so to take a bunch of the weight out. But it's still a heavy guitar. It's significantly. This one has no weight relief, so it's significantly heavier. But it's still the second heaviest guitar in my collection, and all the guitars are much lighter than any Les Paul. So it's still a pretty massive guitar. And honestly, I think if Les Paul hurts your neck, or hurts your back, that one's going to hurt your back too. It's just going to hurt it a little bit later, but it's still going to hurt. So also one of the things that's nice about it is it's got the nice strap buttons on it, real wide strap buttons. So I put the locking ones normally on. I put the locking strap locks on, but I don't think you need it on this one. They hold on pretty good. It's really hard to get them on, actually, so you probably don't need that. But so really my attraction to it was there's been a lot of really good comments online about the 2016 model. I like the fact that it's got the Jimmy Page wiring, if you will, the controls with the phase and the coil taps. I really like that. I like they got rid of the E-tune The later, the 2017 model, they've actually gotten rid of the little plastic ring around the switch. You know, and that's not a big deal. You can always buy those and replace those. But to me, this is the one that seems to be back to the classic basics, but still has a lot of the innovations. So it's like to me, it's the ultimate Les Paul standard, modern Les Paul standard. And like I said, I'm going to put the Gibson Deluxe on there. And the Gibson Deluxe are just what you normally get on a Gibson. These right here, the little ivory ones. I just think those are the classic look of Les Paul, and so that's what I want to put on it. Okay, so anyway, I'm going to do an audio comparison next and let you hear what they sound like. I was, by the way, my fears were whatever you want. I don't have to worry anymore. That the XR-1 sounds every bit as good as that 2016 standard, in my opinion. I think the Dirty Fingers are a very high output pickup as well, and to me they sound very close, if not identical. So I'll let you be the judge. Anyway, you'll hear them both. But honestly, if I had to pick one, I would pick the XR-1. Because I've had it for 20 some odd, more than 20 years, and they're kind of rare. You can't really find the XR-1 that much, and if I wanted to, I could put I actually have it in a drawer, another set of those, the coil tap pickups, or the controls. So you can go to any Guitar Center and half a dozen stores around here and find at least a dozen Les Paul standards on the shelf, but you'd be hard pressed to find another XR-1 somewhere. So you could buy a studio, but then you'd have to find the high output pickups. But anyway, I'm very lucky to have both of these guitars, so I enjoy it. Anyway, hope you like it. If you want, you can check out how the guitars sound in a different video. Thanks.